Hey folks, it's Frederik from the FWX podcast. I want to talk more about the Captain America franchise. I've covered each of the movies now, that being the recent one like Brave New World, and then the previous ones. This is Civil War. This is Civil War. And then also The Winter Soldier and The First Avenger. So that's the lineup of the movies for Captain America. And now I want to talk to you about the series that falls between Brave New World and Civil War. And to give you a bit more context for the timeline, but also sits between these two are Black Widow, which is a continuation of Civil War basically, about the Black Widow origin story, about Natasha Romanoff, who was trained by the Red Room. I might do an episode on that maybe. We'll see. But now I want to talk about this one. This is the TV series that came in between Brave New World and Civil War. Timeline wise, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series. And we got our two leads here with Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson as the Falcon, and Sebastian Stan's the Winter Soldier, aka Bucky Barnes. And I'll switch in between those two because this is very much a dual protagonist story. And I'm gonna get into that in a moment. I'm gonna give you the disclaimer first. In a moment, I will be reading off my screen. That means that the screen will get brighter, I will get brighter because the text is on the screen. I will also fumble words on occasion. I might swear or not. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And I might also make a weird pause like I just did. That happens on occasion too. Okay, so let's get things started. Also, I have to mention that there's a lot of new people in this TV series that I have to bring up. So I will also be doing that. So I'm gonna go over the story of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series and the characters, and I will bring up things in between then about. Well, we'll see. Let's begin. Alright. So, no place to start but the beginning, of course. Also, timeline wise, this all starts 6 months after the blip. And the blip, by the way, for those who don't know, is the snap that the Hulk, aka Bruce Banner, did to bring everybody back that Thanos snapped away. And so it's now 6 months after that. And we have our main guy, Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, working with the US military to do work. So he can do something. And he and a friend of him who also appears in this new content is this guy that I've mentioned before in Brave New World. Danny Ramirez is Falcon, but in this series he has not become the Falcon just yet. He is now a US First Lieutenant Air Force person. Yeah, so he's a soldier in the Air Force for America. And so Sam and Joaquin Torres is his name, are trying to take on a group called the LAF. And they are terrorists. And they have hijacked a plane. And right over Tunisia, which is in the upper part of Africa. And they stop one of the people involved with LAF a guy named Georges Batroc, who I also have talked about before. He's played by this guy, Georges Saint-Pierre, who plays this guy Batroc the Leaper, is his original comic book name, and he also has his name in this series. And so Sam stops Batroc from hijacking this plane, and they have, yeah, he stops the plane. Anyway, so he has been dealing with the fact, and Sam also has been dealing with the fact that because of everything that has happened since Endgame, he has been dealing with the fact that he now has both the shield that Steve Rogers was using and also the mantle that he basically passed to Sam. And Sam is coming to terms with all of this. And he does something that we see in the series, and he gives the shield back to the government so they can put it on a display about an exhibition. Sorry, that's not the right word. An exhibit for the very idea of having a Captain America, and the people who do it and who it is about. And that includes Steve Rogers, of course, but then also Sam to a degree, and then also other people who I will talk about in a moment. Meanwhile, we meet up with Bucky, our guy, the now former Winter Soldier, as he was actually recently pardoned in this series for what he has done, and he's attending part of the deal of his pardon, and that is government-mandated therapy. And he has to talk here about making amends for all the time that he has done as the Winter Soldier, the brainwashed assassin for Hydra, the terrorist faction that was inside of S.H.I.E.L.D., that I've talked about before in the other movies. And so Bucky has a hard time dealing with this because he is not really sure what to do or who he really is. And we meet with both throughout this series, between Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, because it's their story. Meanwhile, Joaquin Torres, the lieutenant for the Air Force, has found out that there's another terrorist organization trying to make it better. They tried to make it seem... I'm talking about the Flag Smashers, who are originally also from the Marvel comic books, but in this series they appear to be different from their initial intentions. And the Flag Smashers originally stand for making the world go back to normal and having all the normal social issues that people care about, having more care about them now because of everything that has happened with all the superheroes, with the snap and the blip and all of that. They believe, the Flag Smashers believe, for life to be better, there needs to be no borders anymore. There needs to be just union between people. And they believe, and maybe this was hypercritical with what I just said, but they believe that life was better during the blip. And Torres goes to investigate them, the Flag Smashers, and here he learns that one of their group, because it's a relatively small group, the leadership one of them has superhuman strength, and he gets actually injured by them when he sees that they are robbing a bank in Switzerland. And he tells Sam about this while he's recovering from his injuries. And Sam, meanwhile, is taking care of his own family because he has a sister who also appears in this movie. She is played by this woman, Adepero Oduye, I hope I said her name right, who plays Sarah Wilson in this series. And so their family had a fishing business in the town where they are from, in Delacroix, Louisiana. I personally would have said that differently, but I'm saying it this way. So he's helping her out in the place where they are from, in Louisiana. So, and then this episode of the series ends with the U.S. government announcing that they have now a new Captain America that they want the world to see. For I'm making no sense here. I'm gonna rephrase. So the U.S. government has found somebody new to take up the title of Captain America, a guy named John Walker, and that's where this episode ends. By the way, the name of this episode is called New World Order, which is a tie-in to what the Flag Smashers want. Okay, then we go over to the next episode, number 2, and this one is called The Star-Spangled Man, which is a clear nod to the new Captain America, John Walker. And we in fact begin with him at a sports match in America, where he appears on Good Morning America. And by the way, I have to mention here that he is getting interviewed by someone who really worked for Good Morning America, Sarah Haynes, who is a correspondent or journalist on The View. She is one of the co-hosts there. And so she interviews him, and she wants him to tell everyone in America and around the world what his desire is in his efforts to live up to the huge shadow that Steve Rogers left behind, and to take up his mantle as Captain America. And then we cut to Bucky and Sam as they meet up. And they have a discussion, a rather feisty discussion. But more, it's almost like a fight where they're both getting upset, and Bucky is upset that Sam has given the shield back to the government. And he's unsure what that means for what Steve Rogers stood for, what he stood for, as being such a close friend to the old Captain America. And they are then they're going then to Munich, where the Flag Smashers have just stolen a shipment of medicine, and they learn there of the leader of the Flag Smashers, someone called Carly Morgenthau, and the woman playing Carly Morgenthau is this woman, Erin Kellyman, who plays the leader of the group. And Bucky and Sam confront the group, and they quickly learn, just like Joaquin Torres was, that these are all super soldiers, not just one of them, but all of them, and so they are overpowered. And that leads to this new Captain America. By the way, he is played by this man right here. Wyatt Russell, by the way, son of Kurt Russell, who also has a role in the MCU. And he does not yet have the name that is then in here, U.S. agent. He is the new Captain America, and he is there with his close friend and fellow military man Lamar Hoskins, who is played by Clay Bennett right here, who goes by the codename Battlestar. And they help out Sam and Bucky, but then the Flag Smashers manage to escape from them. And Walker decides that, I know I'm a bit rusty in this kind of thing, but I'm willing to work with you guys. But Bucky and Sam both refuse to do that because they have different standards and ideals when it comes to being a Captain America. And so Sam takes Bucky back to America and to Baltimore, where he introduces Sam to another person that is important in this story. He's called Isaiah Bradley, and he's played in this series by the brilliant Coral Lumbie right here, who also appears in Brave New World that I've talked about. And he's a veteran from the Korean War in the 1950s, and he was experimented on back then, and he used to fight during the Korean War, as I've already said. Why am I saying this double? Anyway, so Isaiah is aware of this whole thing with the shield and with the title of Captain America, but he refuses actually to. Well, the reason why they are with Isaiah is that he might know about who could potentially give somebody else the information and the chemistry set and skills to make additional super soldiers. And so Isaiah has had a troubling relationship with what happened in the past for him, and so he refuses to help them because he was someone that people had experimented on to create more super soldiers. And that leads Sam and Bucky to go and look for somebody else that they have faced in the past. But as they do, they're also confronted for a moment by the local police in a bit that you see about how things are. That was my phone. Sorry, I'm gonna rephrase. So when Bucky and Sam walk away from meeting with Isaiah Bradley, and by the way, his nephew, Elijah Bradley, who is also an important comic book character when it comes to the Captain America title, as he becomes the Patriot hero in the comics. So as they walk away, they're confronted by the police, and the show shows us here that just like in real life, it is still not easy for people of different backgrounds, and especially black people, unfortunately, to be dealing with government and law enforcement. And so that is part of this show too, that this isn't easy to do. This isn't. Okay, and I'm gonna stop with the politics here because you know why. I'm not an authority to talk about that, but I needed to mention it because it actually does happen in the show. Voila. That's all I wanted to say about that. And so Bucky actually is the one that is arrested by the police because he has just missed an appointment for his therapy. But then they find Walker back, and Walker has the police release Bucky. So, and Walker once again asks Bucky and Sam to help, but both of them refuse again to work with him. And then this time Bucky is the one with the idea, is that they go visit someone that they have met in the past, who, by the way, is on this poster in a bit of a different way. The guy with the purple mask here, Mr. Helmut Zemo, who is imprisoned. And here's where episode 2 ends. So, let's continue with episode 3, called Power Broker. And so they go to him, to the prison where Zemo is held, and they have an audience, a talk with Zemo about helping them dealing with the Flag Smashers. But they can't just do that for authority reasons. Sometimes the words, folks. Anyway, so they do it the other way, and Bucky, having been around for so long, has picked up a bunch of skills, and he, through doing something really small and tedious, manages to get Zemo out of the prison by orchestrating a prison riot. And then the three of them travel to a place called Madripoor, which is also a location from the comics. And this is a place in in Southeast Asia, I will say. Madripoor is a kind of place like there's a. I'm gonna look it up for a second. I know how to say it. Maybe some of you have watched the James Bond movies. There is one where James Bond goes to a casino-like sphere where he has to find someone, and so that's kind of what Madripoor is. So it's very neon, very urban place. I'm gonna look it up for a second, because just a second, folks. So yeah, I was right. So in the southern parts of Asia, there is the place called Madripoor, and it's a fictional city-state that is part of the Indonesian archipelago. Fucking words, folks. Archipelago. I probably said that wrong. Anyway. So they go there. And Madripoor is like a natural habitat for criminals, basically. But they don't know that there is, like the title implies, someone running the show there, the Power Broker. And they find another high-ranking criminal there called Selby, who reveals to the three that this Power Broker has hired a scientist that used to work for Hydra, Wilfred Nagel, to recreate the supersoldier serum. And there's scenes of them in a club in Madripoor, and we have a fun moment where Zemo is dancing that a lot of people like from this series. And so the three of them are there. They meet this guy, this Selby, but then unfortunately he gets killed when Sam's identity is actually exposed to everybody else, and everyone on the island of Madripoor is then coming after them, and they're trying to get out of this club, and they're trying to get out even on the island. But then they are found by someone they haven't seen in years, who also appears in this movie, and that is Emily Vancamp's Sharon Carter. She used to be a SHIELD agent in the movie Winter Soldier. That's this one right here. And now she works on Madripoor. And she's a fugitive living there. And she saves the guys' asses. And she gets them to the place where they need to go. The lab where the new super serum has been made. And there they learn that the leader of the Flag Smashers has stolen all 20 doses of the serum. And shortly after this happens, they are once again attacked by the same criminals that are after them. And while they are getting out of this lab, Zemo has a moment where he uses the chaos to his advantage, and he kills the chemist that has been making the super soldier serum. Because Zemo's whole play is that whatever you left to do if there are people like super soldiers in the world. And so we have this moment, in fact, in the series where he masks up, I'm gonna say, and he pulls the mask on. And Sharon stays behind, covering for them, and the three of them get out of there, and then we meet back with the Flag Smashers, as they are in Lithuania attending someone's service, someone that used to be a part of them, or like a mentor figure for Carly specifically, Carly Morgenthau, the leader. And they are at a storage facility for, once again, a kind of united organization that is trying to help people from everything that has happened with the blip. And this is a organization called the Global Repatriation Council, or GRC. And so the three guys, Zemo, Bucky, and Sam, go to the same place and start to search in a place close by in Latvia. And here we have Bucky realize that actually they're being followed, but not by those criminals from Madripoor. And we see this episode end with him being confronted by one of the Dora Milaje, the head security of Wakanda. And he is confronted by Ao. And the whole reason why he realizes this is because Wakandans use technology, specific advanced technology, to track people. And Bucky has spent so much time in Wakanda before this series because, remember from Civil War, he asked to be back on ice, to be put back on ice, to make sure that the brainwashing is out of him. And so he's confronted by Ao from the Dora Milaje, and that is where the episode ends. And we go over to episode 4, called The Whole World is Watching. At the beginning of this episode, AO from Dor Melage gives Bucky the time, well, not too much time, 8 hours only, to put Zemo to use. And the whole reason why the Wakandans are involved with this is because back in Civil War, Zemo killed T'Chaka. So there's only a relative amount of time that they're willing to give the guys to find out what is happening and how they can fix it. And during the time that they've been traveling together, the two guys come to know that Zemo, despite having been only an intelligence officer in Sokovia, actually came from a rich family in Sokovia, and so they travel in style with a personal jet. And there's moments between the three of them where they clash and don't clash. It's like a constant discussion between the three of them talking about the Captain America title and what it stands for. Just bumped my mic. And so Zemo helps the two guys, finds Carly at the place in Lithuania where this mentor figure has been put to rest because she died, unfortunately. And at this place, Bucky and Sam are once again confronted by Walker and Hoskins, the two military guys, the supposed new Captain America and Battlestar. And so Sam has a lot of experience from having worked at the VA in America in DC, and he uses his abilities as a mediator and someone with a lot of empathy to talk with Carly himself, and he's trying to persuade her to stop with the violence. And this results into a fight as Walker comes between them, and this leads into a fight. And while all of that is happening, we have moments where they all clash, but also cut to each other with what is happening. Not just the fight, but also, for example, the fact that Zemo is looking for a way to not have any more super strong soldiers. And so he's looking for the serum, and he destroys most of it before he is stopped by the supposed new Captain America Walker, who gets the last vial. And we have another fight shortly after this, where the Dora Milaje and Ayo have come for Zemo to take him away again, put him in prison. But then Walker is also present, and he shows in the fight with the Dora Milaje that he is wholly inept to fighting them. And the pair of very capable badass ladies from the Dora Milaje humiliate him. And we also see in that moment during this fight that there is a way to take off Bucky's metal, or in this case vibranium arm, because he got a new replacement from them when he was there. And in this fight, Zemo manages to escape. And that leads us to Carly Morgenthau back, where she meets up with Sam's sister, Sarah. Who is using her as leverage to get at Sam. And she, for once, is trying to persuade him to join the Flag Smashers. as she thinks that he has now taken a vial of the super strength serum. And we got to yet another fight as the supposed new Captain America also is present with his buddy, with Battlestar. And during this fight, with Carly being one of the super strong ones herself, she accidentally kills Battlestar. And so Walker is absolutely out of his mind about this, and he chases after everyone from the Flag Smashers, and he manages to get one of them at the very end of this episode, where he just outright kills this guy with the Captain America shield made from vibranium. And so he does this while a lot of people are watching, and he just does not care because they killed his friend. And he just absolutely murders this guy on live television, basically. And that is where this episode ends. And we come to the penultimate episode, called Truth. And realizing what has just happened, both Bucky and Sam demand the shield back from Walker, was just as distraught as you can be from having lost someone so close to you, but also with what he has just done, outright killing a guy in broad daylight. And that leads them to fight the supposed new Captain America. And here we get to see that Walker in fact has taken this new super serum, and he demolishes Sam's wingsuit that he has been using to fight. And it takes the two of them to take the shield back. And they do it by breaking Walker's arm. And for once they separate. And Bucky finds Zemo back in Sokovia, actually. We're at a memorial, a big, I would say, like a statue to have as a memory to all the people that have died in the Battle of Sokovia during, I haven't talked about this movie before, in Avengers Age of Ultron. A lot of it takes place in Sokovia, and since Zemo is from there, he feels nostalgic about the whole thing, and so he's there, and Bucky finds him, and Zemo taunts Bucky into doing it, killing him. But Bucky shows that he has become a better person now, and he gets Zemo over to the Dora Milaje, who have been tracking the both of them. And as this is happening, we cut back to Walker, who is being admonished for having killed someone in broad daylight. And he's back in America, and he gets in front of a Senate hearing, and here he is given a honorable discharge and is also stripped of his title as a Captain America. And shortly after this, Walker meets someone new from this series that you may have seen at the very end of the Black Widow movie, if you have seen it. And that is, I have her picture right here, actress Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who plays a person from the comics, Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. And that's a whole mouthful, but she actually just decides that you can call me Val. Almost like the song, You Can Call Me Al. And so we find our way back to Sam, who gifts the damaged windsuit that Walker tore up to his buddy Torres. I'm gonna show him again. You know what? I'm gonna use this Brave New World picture for a moment, because in this one he has a new suit, basically. So old suit meets new suit. Okay. And following up from his visit with Torres, Bucky goes to. Sam meets with Isaiah Bradley again, who has really come to believe that a black man cannot and shouldn't be Captain America. And so that leaves Sam with only his thoughts, and he intends to return home, and he does return home, and he helps out with his sister and her kids to fix the family boat that their parents used to have. And they get a lot of help from the locals in Delacroix, and he is actually pleasantly surprised when he sees that Bucky has also showed up, and Bucky helps out, and there's this lovely montage with tender moments of them fixing up the boat instead of selling it. By the way, I'm gonna briefly talk just a bit more about politics here, in that there's moments during this series that you really get to see how things are in the MCU United States, and it's sadly not that different from how it is currently, or has been for so long in our own United States of America in real life. Yes, so that was nice that I kept that so short. Okay, and Bucky has also something new for Sam, a special kind of briefcase. And we get another montage where they are both training with the shield now, as they have gotten the blood of this flag smasher off of it. And Sam gives Bucky some well needed therapy, and the other way around too, as they are agreeing that they should move on from what has happened in the past, and that they are going to work together now. And we got to the Flag Smashers that have just planned an attack in New York City, and they are joined by Betrock, who was part of the LAF, and he has been hired now. Sorry, I'm getting ahead here. So the Flag Smashers meet up in Central Park in New York. They're joined by Betrock, who is now part of this. And they have a plan to go and attack the GRC conference that is happening in New York City. And we get, for once in a TV series, a typical Marvel after credits scene where we see that John Walker is now building his own shield from scrap metal and his past war medals. And that's where this episode ends. By the way, I haven't said what this name was. The episode is called Truth. Okay, so we move on to the final episode of this limited TV series about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, called One World, One People, which is the motto of the Flag Smashers. And we start with our guys, with Sam and Bucky, and the suitcase that Bucky had for Sam was actually a reinvented wingsuit that the Wakandans have made for Sam to pay him back for getting Zemo back into a prison. Getting him back to the Wakandans so they can imprison him in a place that he is worthy of. And so Sam is now fully dressed up in a new suit that pertains his new title as Captain America, which also allows him to fly like he used to when he worked for the government and the army. And so Bucky and he and Bucky go to New York to stop the attack of the Flag Smashers, as it has been going viral on social media. And at the place in New York, we learn a lot more information. Sorry for the weird pause there. Anyway, so here are a couple of things that have been revealed, like who has been this mysterious power broker. Well, it happens to be no one else but Sharon Carter herself, as she has been using an art collection in Madripoor as her funds for her organization as the power broker. And she tells this, by the way, to Batroc the Leaper. And Batroc is... There's a cut between scenes here where she's telling this and also kills Batroc, while Sam is trying to reason with the Flag Smashers leader, Charlie Morgenthau. And we get cuts of the fights between the three and more, because John Walker also shows up and comes to help. But not before Carter, the power broker, kills the leader of the Flag Smashers. And Sam has this moment after the fight with someone from the GRC to postpone what they were initially going to do, and that was the relocation of displaced people all throughout the world. Because, as he says in an amazing speech, we need to be better. We need to work together. We need to stand for our ideas and our values. And make efforts to help people, not just ourselves, but other people. And right before this happens, the remaining enhanced Flag Smashers are found by Bucky and by Walker, which come to help. And they are stopped. They stop them before. Their intention is to get these enhanced individuals back to the raft that we've seen in Civil War. But as they're brought away, Zemo from a distance has his butler that has been flying them around kill them by a remote detonator as they are en route to the raft. Yes. And then we meet back up with John Walker as he meets with Val again, who gives him both a new uniform and a new code name, which is U.S. Agent. And we get here some interesting ending scenes with Bucky amending all the people that he has been dealing with to amend for his past mistakes. For instance, and I probably should have said this before, but he has been spending time with an older man whose son he had killed when he was a Winter Soldier, and he clears up all the information and really shows that I am willing to be responsible, to be accountable for myself, to not just this man, but then everybody else that he has hurt or has enabled as the Winter Soldier, because this also includes getting people into power. One of the people that he unfortunately helped became an elected official, for instance. And while that is happening, Sam is over at the museum exhibit for Captain America, and he has managed to get a plaque up about Isaiah Bradley, and we get a soft and tender, interesting scene with the two of them as Sam shows off the plaque, and they have this really soft, lovely moment with the two of them, and also with Elijah, Isaiah's nephew, who's there. And just like the previous episode, we end this episode with another after credit scene where Sharon Carter has gotten a complete pardon, and she has now joined the CIA again, where she was initially part of. No, I'm gonna rephrase here. So in this after credit scene, it's a mid credit scene, so in between the credits, Sharon has gotten a full pardon from the U.S. government, and it's unclear who exactly she joins, but she calls someone to have this to her advantage, that she can now use this connection and use her pardon so she can sell government secrets and resources. Okay, and that is where this series ends. So, a whole mouthful of things that happen, a lot of action, a lot of interesting character work, very interesting, very current, especially. I talked about the social issues in this show, about racism, and about what you would call woke these days, but really are the things that matter to people and that we care about, especially in America, I have to say, which I probably have said a lot now at this point, where all of this is happening, because we get a lot of jet work. There is exposition, quite a lot of exposition, but done in ways that really work for me. I really enjoyed this series. I didn't rewatch it just to be sure. Maybe you got that if you have seen this episode all through with me. This episode of the podcast, not the episodes of the series. You can see that if you like on Disney Plus, if it's still on there, of course. So I want to thank you for listening and watching to this episode of the FWX podcast. You can like this video, you can subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in a future video. So thanks for everything. Also, please share this with as many people as you know that like this kind of content, and I hope to see you in a future video. See you in the next one.